Today is Tuesday, March 11th, 2025, according to Pope Gregory the 13th in a papal bull issued in the 1500s. We have some interesting stuff going on right now. I'm going to jump right into Europe, looking at the traces for the military birds that are up. I saw something interesting, wanted to hit the record button right away before they landed. These are two B-52 strategic bombers that have been doing laps up the Baltic and into Sweden, between Sweden and Finland. So it looked like they went all the way up here and sat there for a minute, and also came down here and did laps in the Baltic Sea right next to Kaliningrad, which is Russia. So we have B-52s up right off of the coast of Kaliningrad, and looks like they're headed home back to the United Kingdom at the moment. So as quickly as the app will let me, I'm going to go across the pond back over here. I've already removed a lot of the inconsequential flights to take a look at. These are all refuelers, intelligence gathering birds, but you can see there's some interesting things happening around the country. Nothing to dive into too deep at the moment, other than, we got our 135 up here, part of NATO probably, or not NATO, NORAD probably, making sure that there are no missiles that come over the poles. But as always, we have activity over the Pacific Northwest. We have activity, the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, the Gulf, and up and down the East Coast. This app is Skyglass. You can download it for yourself and play around with it. It's a whole lot of fun just to see this, or the ADSB website. If you just Google ADSB, you can also see all of these things right on your cell phone. So if I'm out in public and see a Black Hawk helicopter fly over, or an Apache, I'm going to go see if they're flying with their stuff squawking, or if they're not squawking, and that might say that something near me is imminent or not. I've seen plenty of helicopters being escorted by drones and have both of their call signs show up on the ADSB or the Skyglass app. So highly recommend having this in your repertoire for your personal intelligence gathering, open source intelligence gathering. The main thing I saw here to talk about, other than the B-52s, was the refuelers between Florida and Cuba. Seemed interesting, and a couple of P-8s running laps around Tampa. So don't know if there's anything up there. Just collecting data at this point. Oh, you get to see my background. I did not mean for that to happen. Okay, so jumping right in, space weather. Not a whole lot to talk about here, other than we had a couple of geomagnetic storms a couple of days ago. Nothing outlandish, nothing too big to talk about. Looking at the sun, we're not seeing a whole lot of filaments popping for solar flares. Looks pretty quiet on the sun at the moment. The reason why I look at all of this is, yes, let's scroll this out. These are the sunspots, solar flares, and we are in a less productive time than we were in the 50s, in the late 50s. But we have a weaker magnetic field, and the poles are moving, and they're speeding up as they're moving. So I wanted to bring this up, just, a little proof from Nature magazine, and say that they're on top of it some of the time, not all of the time. But you can see, like, when most of us were kids, the North Pole was still in Canada, and you can see where it went in 20 years, and where it's gone in 10 years, and another 5 years, and another, it's moving faster. So, what the way it was explained to me is that everything in nature is cyclical. There are large cycles that happen, 26,000 octave, 13,000 octave, 8,000, 4,000. There are different magnitudes of these types of things that happen. So two of the theories that I tend to lean towards is something big happened in the 1800s and forced us out of alignment, And so the North Pole moved when something man-made happened and forced things like a global catastrophe that caused global flooding and mud floods, and there's all the Tartaria timeline hypothesis out there floating around. Or we're about to hit one of these 26,000 year cycles and the geomagnetic poles are going to flip, and that may just be the poles flipping. That may be a physical tilt of the Earth moving, and we may have 3 days of sunlight. You may be on the side where we have 3 days of darkness. The way that I understand it, that I kind of subscribe to the most at this point, is we're approaching, in our lifetime, there is a chance that we see one of these major cycles come to light. And nobody knows what that looks like. In reality, we can say, oh yeah, the what are they called? The Aurora Borealis keeps going further and further south, or you may be moving to a different place in the geomagnetic sphere. Moving on, let's look at weather real quick. We have some precipitation in Southern California, the Pacific Northwest, over Montana and North Dakota, and then it's currently sitting over Canada, but it's expected to move into Maine, Vermont, North New Hampshire, in the next few days, next 3 days. We'll have another update before then, but there's going to be major combining of weather systems, a high pressure and low pressure weather system over Colorado, Kansas, and Nebraska, where it looks like there may be major snow events on the west side of those two weather cells combining. We may have blizzards in Colorado and hurricane force winds in Kansas. Moving on to the Ring of Fire volcanoes, you can see still the dark red are active, everything that's active. The orange is in the past 48 hours, and the yellow are things that have popped off in the last 2 weeks. So Ring of Fire still very active, Kilauea still producing, and we're still missing either data or activity from the western side of the United States. Either we've gotten really good at harvesting the ultra low frequency, the ELF frequency waveforms that cause all of this stuff through the crustal displacement and solar particle forcing, or we're not reporting them. So going over here, I'd like to add this to the repertoire, taking a look at the Yellowstone caldera and seeing what it's done in the last 2 weeks, 2 days, and 2 hours. In the last 2 weeks, it's been pretty active. You can see all of the, they look fairly small in magnitude, 3s and 4s, but we're still seeing the activity. We're just not seeing the volcanic activity. We're not seeing large earthquakes. And when you pair that with why are there high frequency or the high voltage power lines sitting at a certain height above the ground, running across megalithic structures, maybe they're harvesting. I don't know. Moving on. This is the flood plains. I have not removed the no flood data. I need to do that. So right now we're just looking at some flooding along the Mississippi, the east side of Texas. Looks like there's something major happening in St. Mary's River near McElhinney, Florida. Other than that, one red gauge. Nothing popping off here, nothing to take a look at. Let's refresh this map. Give California a chance to not be yellow. Nope, California's still yellow. So power outages. There are 16,000 people in California with no power. Prayers for you. And everyone else who's, going through a day without power, Texas, Indiana, Florida, and D.C. D.C., there's 2,000 people without power in D.C. Checking on the markets. Very bearish in the markets. We've had a really, really bad few days if you're a stock market investor. Right now, it looks like the Dow Jones is down 400 points today, 468.8 points. Wow, that's really bad. S&P down, NASDAQ down, European markets down, Asian markets, all of them down except for two. Commodities up, not shocked. And let's look at the currencies. And where is... Okay, gold. Gold is at 29.16. So last time I was doing these videos on a regular basis, it was at 2,600, not 2,900. So gold keeps on pushing up. So I'm not a financial advisor. I don't want to be in finance anymore. I was for 8 years of my professional career, talking 401ks and future retirement investing and all that. And I have since liquefied all my own investments and turned them into physical assets, personally, because there's something coming, right? We can all feel something's coming. Major shift in a positive direction, I sure hope. Checking on marine traffic. Let's refresh this. Looks like everything's flowing fairly smoothly at the moment. Nothing really to look at here. Cyber attacks. So this is a Radware live threat map for the last 24 hours. The top attackers, so most of the attacks have come from China, United States, France, United Kingdom, and Panama. And most of the countries that have received these attacks are Switzerland, United States, Canada, Japan, and India. Looking at the live cyber threat map, we have 11.9 million attacks so far on this day. Looking at the rate on the side, that's not a major tick up. It's fairly standard, and I've seen days where we've been in the hundreds of millions of attacks, trackable attacks, according to these things. So there's your update. Look forward to doing this on a more regular cadence, Tuesday, Thursday, and then maybe if there's some major events to update on, doing like a weekend update. But March 11th, 2025, the narrative construct date, we might be in the month of Saul if we were running a calendar before Pope Gregory, when there were 13 even months of 4 weeks and 1 day of debt forgiveness jubilee, 1 day where you are not tied to the construct. So look forward to seeing you all in the next update. Thanks for joining me today. Appreciate you. See you next time.